Welcome to Acquisitions Anonymous. Today's podcast was about a deal brought by Connor Groce, our friend in the franchise world, who brought a deal around private security. And I went on a rant of epic proportions that happened toward the end. So please listen to this deal and stick around to the end. You'll enjoy where we ended up, though it may kind of be obvious where we end up. All right, here's the deal.
So Acquisitions Anonymous. Hello, another episode of Acquisitions Anonymous.
We don't have 100% beard anymore.
And thumbs downing on just the plus inventory alone.
Hey everyone, it's Bill, and I want to tell you about maybe the most exciting sponsor we've had in a long time on the pod. It's called CapitalPad, and it is the thing that I wish existed when I started my journey of operating and investing in small businesses. So CapitalPad is a marketplace for acquisition entrepreneurs, that is, people who want to buy a business and need capital to list their deals and solicit capital from other people who want to invest in acquisition deals. So if you want to back somebody buying a small business, CapitalPad is the place to do it. And if you want to buy a business and need capital, you can go on CapitalPad to be introduced to investors. So the really great thing too from the investor side is that CapitalPad takes care of all of the details that can get hairy with small business acquisitions. They handle standardized terms, standardized governance, standardized distributions, all upfront in black and white. Basically, CapitalPad professionalizes investing in small businesses. And the returns can be really, really good. I'm so stoked they exist. It's founded by my friend Travis, who is a phenomenal entrepreneur in his own right. So if this sounds like something that is appealing to you, if you want to buy a small business and need capital, or if you want to invest in small businesses, go check out capitalpad.com and tell them that Acquisitions Anonymous sent you.
So yeah, we're getting more and more on the fly with these podcasts, Bill, because we used to wait until we figured out what deal we were doing before clicking record. Now I just click record.
Well, I love it. That's this. If there's any doubt about the show being live, this is the hot, unfiltered takes on deals.
Yeah. Connor has a deal. Wait, San Antonio, Texas? I'm in. How much is it?
Oh, Connor's good at this, man. He's good at this.
Yeah, wait till you hear. Wait till you hear below the San Antonio headline, and we'll see if you're still in. But so a highly profitable security business for sale. They're asking $4.28 million with gross revenue of $773K. They do not disclose EBITDA, but by that asking price, I'm going to hope their margins are, within striking distance of 100%. But we'll see. All right, so security services franchise with recurring revenue and growth potential. The Signal franchise network is dedicated to providing peace of mind to communities and building a profitable, sustainable business. This isn't just about stepping into revenue, it's about growing something bigger. Why Signal? Why this opportunity? Immediate revenue and clients. You'd be stepping into a business that's already generating cash flow with active contracts in place. This means you'll see revenue right away instead of waiting to build a client base. Industry leadership. Signal is ranked number 1 in security services, number 20 in fastest growing franchises, number 63 in the 2025 Franchise 500. Remind me to come back to that because it's fake. This credibility, quote unquote, makes it easier to win new contracts and expand the business. Bullshit. Lower operational costs and higher margins, affordable ownership with financing, payroll lending, and exclusive insurance savings. Signal offices offers flexible financing options that cover most startup costs and making franchise ownership more accessible than competitors requiring large upfront investments. Advanced technology for growth. So this is basically a staffing business for security, like patrol and guard services is how I understand it. I'm actually not super familiar with this brand, but it's talking about this lot, which is, I'm assuming is what they mean a territory, contains a population of 2.7 million opportunities, 1,100 commercial businesses. They talk about distribution facilities, manufacturing companies, industrial entities. Right now, independent security companies face increasing challenges, rising insurance costs, administrative burdens, and competition from larger, well-branded providers. The security industry is projected to grow from $117 billion in 2023 to $211 billion by 2030, and now is the time to position yourself for long-term success.
So what does this business do, Bill?
They staff mall security guards, basically?
That's what it sounds like.
I mean,
yeah,
metaphorically, but right? Just private security?
Are the segues included?
Uh,
In
so
FF&E?
is there any differentiation, or this is just generic rent-a-cop stuff?
I think it's generic rent-a-cop stuff, but I do think that it's more like it sounds like they're targeting. I'm trying to find where it said that they're targeting commercial security. So it sounds like this is office buildings, apartments, distribution facilities, manufacturing companies,
So
etc.
my business here is that I have some vehicles, a brand. I go out to commercial sites who have security needs, whether it's gate watching, patrolling apartments, all that kind of stuff. I sign a contract with them, which is maybe month to month, maybe longer if I'm lucky, to provide X services. And then every day I have to wake up and make sure that $10 an hour employees show up and do their job patrolling these apartment buildings, and then deal with the inevitable kind of craziness when something wacky happens at 2 a.m. That's the whole business.
Yes. Your
Did
thoughts?
I make it sound great or no?
I think you nailed like my number one concern with something like this is that you are never going to be rewarded for doing a good job. You're only going to be punished for doing a bad job. Like whenever something happens, no one's going to be like, oh, this is wonderful. You know, we didn't have a break-in today or we didn't have an incident, but all hell is going to be unleashed when there is something that happens on your watch. And to your point, Michael, you're not exactly staffing a skilled and highly qualified workforce here. This is lower level security this sounds like a very challenging business to staff adequately.
Yeah. My son, I don't think I told you, Bill, my son just took a job full-time as a valet parker at a mid-priced budget hotel here in San Antonio. And some of the stories we hear are like, yeah, I showed up to work today. My boss had been fired. I don't know what happened. Like they're promoting me like that. It's just like all this stuff where it's like, oh, wow, the bar
is low.
the bar is low. And there's a reason why the hotels and the apartments, they don't staff these things themselves. They outsource it to victims like the owner of this business, just because it's just such a nightmare.
So, Connor, what is the Franchise 500?
Oh, that's the list that, if you look at the Franchise 500 list, you'll see it's like either the highest profile business that you could come up with, like McDonald's and Taco Bell and everything, like that'll be like the first few. And then you'll notice it'll just drop in like, Bill's Barbecue or like Michael's Lawn Care or whatever, something that nobody's ever heard of. And it's because it's paid marketing. It's because, brands are paying to get on this list and be mixed amongst McDonald's and Taco Bell and the ones that everybody already know. So the point is it's nothing merit-based. You shouldn't read into that like it's anything other than what it is, which is paid marketing PR,
Then, so moral of the story again is you can't trust anything on the internet.
Correct.
It did remind me when I started to subscribe the first time to Entrepreneur Magazine, and I learned, oh, this is just a franchise promotion magazine. These are the only people that are in this thing. So, yeah.
You guys probably get the emails like, Bill D'Alessandro has been selected as Business Person of the Year for a feature fee of $2,000. And it's like, they don't even know who you are. They clearly spam, like it's like a Mad Libs email, and it's clearly they've spammed like thousands of people. Just mail.
Why haven't you responded to me yet? I'm waiting for your check, Bill.
Sorry. Sorry. That's like that wine. Is that like the wine business we did a while ago that you can just like pay and you win the wine awards?
Yeah, but at least then you get to drink wine. This business, you have to deal with your employees showing up drunk and doing because that's the other problem with this thing, right? Back to our deal. Like you have to inevitably this $10 an hour person you have driving around pretending to be a cop is going to do something stupid. Like it is inevitable. They're going to do something stupid and you're going to have to go clean it up. You're going to end up in court, something like that. I mean, just a nightmare.
If I was a franchisee of this, that is the place you would expect the franchisor to cover your butt, right? Insurance, the shit hits the fan, they step in and help you defend the case, etc. But what will probably actually happen is they will completely evaporate and go, this wasn't us. This was this local business owner who's an idiot, right?
Maybe. I don't know. In Smash, like Smash had an ongoing lawsuit because a franchisee got sued, and the franchisor did a really good job stepping in and, defending them, because that was the precedent that was needed to defend the rest of the system. So it depends on the brand. But like the other thing to think about here is like they're going to promote this as, because security is super important. That's why brand matters. And that's why, this is such an asset to be an established brand, but that can be a liability too, because one Signal franchisee, has a situation with an employee on the other side of the country and it's negative PR, that can come back and bite you in the tail just as easily. So it's not always going to be positive from that perspective.
One thing that really bummed me out about this one was, and Michael, whoever is screen sharing, maybe it's you, Connor, have already found it. Flip over to the website. So this is like the homepage for it. And the thing that really bummed me out is the big headline is "Start a Security Franchise." The whole website is just about selling more franchises. Nothing about this website is about selling security services to the businesses who buy it. Like, this would be like if you went to Chick-fil-A.com or McDonald's.com and it said, buy a McDonald's franchise at the front. Like, this whole franchisor is just about selling more units. They're not at all about helping you create any revenue. This is such a bummer.
If you scroll and you look very closely, you can see there's a button here that says become a Signal customer, though.
But is below the own a Signal franchise one, which is to the left.
Right.
I mean, it's like, this is just a bummer, man. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, I'm with you. Here's the reason, part of the reason I thought to talk about this today is there is going to be an increase in spending on security in some capacity. There has to be, after the CEO of United that was assassinated. I don't know, just like there has to be an increase on executive security. I don't think that it will be on like mall cop capacities like this, but I'm curious what you guys think about like investing in an executive security business amidst the current climate.
I think that's a much better business than this one.
I agree.
This is
they
a
can spend.
Totally different business than this one.
Yeah. I think you have, I think with commercial apartment buildings, they're checking a box. With this, the big difference is that somebody like United Health or somebody like that who's paying for executive level services, which I've read anecdotally, those services have all been just overwhelmed with demand lately. And then the Charlie Kirk thing doesn't help either. And then all the other political violence going on. With that stuff going on, like, I think that's a great business to be in right now, because those people are willing to pay up because they don't want to die. Like, that's what they're paying for. Whereas with this, like, you're just checking a box for some portfolio manager, probably doesn't even live in the same town as the apartment building. And so like, I like that other business much better just because of the consumer dynamics.
I like it a lot better too, Michael, but like, one of us three squishy guys can't come in there and just buy this. I mean, they're staffing that thing with Navy SEALs, and like,
Right.
If you're the CEO of United Healthcare, like, you don't want a mall cop, you want a Navy SEAL guy.
Oh, yeah.
And that Navy SEAL guy has probably also got to own you're running a mercenary army at that point,
Yes.
right? They're not going to respect one of us owning that business.
Yes, but I actually would rather staff like Navy SEALs than the workforce that you would staff with this, because you're going to pay them more, they're going to make more money, and there's probably going to be a lower quantity of them that are higher quality employees than something like this, where you're just staffing a bunch of folks.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying, like, imagine like if you're going to own the business that staffs the Navy SEALs, like, you can't just come in and be like, I know how to operate a business, I know what a P&L is. Like, I could probably learn how to operate a restaurant or whatever. I don't think I can learn how to like operate a team of private security operators and all of like the tactical, strategy that is required to do threat models and all that. The CEO is going to speak in this Coliseum. How are we going to make sure that he's safe? I mean, that's stakes that I don't want any part of.
Are you ready to take the leap into business ownership, but you don't know where to start? Well, look no further than Acquisition Lab, the premier resource for entrepreneurs seeking to buy their dream business. Founded by Harvard MBA and acquisition expert Walker Deibel, the lab is your fast track to success in the search, diligence, and acquisition process. With hands-on support, world-class resources, and a community of like-minded entrepreneurs, Acquisition Lab gives you the tools and confidence to navigate every step of the journey. And we're proud to call Walker and Chelsea, the lab's director, longtime friends of the podcast. They're passionate about helping entrepreneurs like you take the next big step. So don't wait to make your business ownership dream a reality. Visit acquisitionlab.com today to learn more and schedule your free consultation. And when you do, be sure to tell them the Acquisitions Anonymous podcast sent you.
So, I had one of my friends is a serial builder of 0 to 1 government contracting organizations, Bill. And she's done some fascinating stuff, but there's been times where she's like hired Navy SEALs. She is not a Navy SEAL. And I think they own weapons, but not in that way. That's that type of family. So I think I don't know. I think there's some level of business is business, but again, like you're putting people's lives in, your hands when you're taking on security, and it's got to get done right. So there's a level of expertise there. So I see the both of it, but man, hiring some SEALs, that would be pretty awesome. I did also spend some time last year with a guy who did private security. They would basically work on UN contracts and get flown around the world. He was not what you would expect. He was like 5'3", like 120 pounds. But then you talk to him, he'd be like, oh yeah, this guy's really, really dangerous. But one of the things he said was when he would go on these security things, in general, they didn't arm themselves. They would be like in Ethiopia and places like that. They wouldn't carry arms because the whole aim of the thing was, how do you make sure that you don't need a gun? And if they armed themselves, they felt like it would get them in a position where they were more likely to get themselves in a situation where they would need a gun, as opposed to just focusing all their effort on not doing any of that stuff, staying in the right place, traveling in the right way.
So it's just more of a deterrence thing than it is an actual
avoidance.
Basically, they don't want to, they're trying to avoid armed conflict. And so they're going to not go in with guns because that, that's like the saying, like, if you're going to carry a gun, you need to be prepared to use it. And so these guys, they didn't want to get in those types of altercations.
And it wasn't worth it to try to go through customs with like a Beretta or whatever the handgun is, like, to get into Ethiopia. Like it was more trouble than it was worth.
Yeah.
Oh, I would feel like you obtain the weapons once you get to Ethiopia. In my case.
and leave them in Ethiopia when it's time to leave.
Again, and then you end up with a weapon you don't trust. Like, just more trouble than it's worth. That was his spiel on the whole thing. So
it's interesting. Yeah, I think if I owned this business, I would be immediately pivoting into executive security, and maybe that's why they're divesting this. But they need to price it a little better if that's what they're trying to do.
Well, let's come back to the price last. I think one thing I definitely want to talk about here is the future for this business. Like, you're seeing Flock Security, you're seeing all of these, like, that's a startup that's growing really quickly, that's doing a lot of technology to replace this. A friend of mine owns a company, Bill, and I don't know if you've seen them, but those like little portable units that are like solar powered and sit there and they're camera monitored on construction sites. Like, he started one of those. It's located here in San Antonio. It's turned into a huge business. Like, technology is coming for a lot of this stuff. Like, I'm worried about that before we even start talking about that the price is crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of like the, mall security type stuff, you don't expect them to actually respond, right? Like, they're just a deterrent in a uniform, and, they try to get a description of the guy who did the crime, right? They're just trying to beat the official guy and give directions. And a camera can do that too. That's a deterrent.
And also, just manning like entrance to whether it's a building or an apartment complex. That's, I think, what, this kind of quote unquote security is doing, is just kind of manning the gate and letting people in. But there are all sorts of, ways that apartment complexes are doing that, between fobs and apps and all sorts of things that I think do a better job for a lower price. So I think, to your earlier point, Michael, about how this kind of security is more for places that are checking the box rather than it is, really moving the needle. I think that there are ways that the boxes are going to be checked that don't involve putting an hourly employee on site.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe talk about the price before we close down my hatred of this deal. So they're asking $4.3 million for a deal that, like, gross revenue wise, so that probably includes salaries. So these guys are maybe taking home 150 in STE.
So it says here, our locations operate at an average gross profit margin of 39%.
Yeah, but I'm not buying those locations. I'm buying this crappy one in San Antonio.
So. Right. But I'm just saying, if it's the net margin, if the gross margin is 39%, the net margin can be nothing sexy. Yeah. It's funny to me that with many generating over 1.2 million in annual revenue, that's the flex. And it's funny that it's not just, many do over $1 million. It's like 1.2 million. I don't know. Yeah.
So what do you think?
Not good.
What do you think they're taking home on this? So they say they have 773,000 in revenue. What do you think this one's taking home, given it looks like it's an underperforming location?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe that. If it maybe if the owner's running it full time, perhaps. But I think that this is, probably close to break even. Because if they were average, which they're probably below average gross profit margin, given that they're underperforming, almost certainly. But even if it was right at average, 40% of $800K is, that's 300-ish of gross profit. And then you back out all of your operating expenses plus owner's comp. I doubt they're turning much of a profit, if any.
Yeah.
I don't know where they got that number.
I know where they got that number. So I was like, who is the broker? And it's over here, business listed by this guy, Eric Wallace. Eric Wallace works at Signal Security as a franchise development associate. So this is, I'm not even sure this is, maybe it's an existing territory. Maybe it's like an aborted startup, or maybe the franchisor had to seize the territory back from the franchisee or something. But I would say this is highly distressed.
Highly distressed. Yeah, that was my first thought too. But usually if it's a franchisor that's trying to bait and switch you, you see these ads on BizBuySell all the time where it's eye-popping numbers between the asking price and the revenue and cash flow. And all they're doing is they're putting the startup cost for the franchise as the asking price and then putting the revenue and cash flow as their average performance. But they're just trying to bait and switch you to get you to do an inquiry and then say, oh, just kidding. This isn't an existing location. Come check out our franchise. But that still doesn't represent 4.2 million. That's what's weird about that, since it came from the franchisor.
You know what? I bet it's, if you call, they go, we were asking 4.2 million, but we'll give you 50% off if you commit before the end of the month. I bet it's that type of thing.
Yeah. And call now.
This is a franchise
we'll
sales organization based on the website,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would steer very clear of this.
Yeah.
Can we skip to the part where I talk about how much I hate this?
Well, wait, haven't we already been doing that, Michael, for 20 minutes?
Yeah, we have.
Oh,
and we didn't get to the biggest issue with it, which is that this thing's in San Antonio. That's
who wants to live there?
That's a problem.
Only steers and idiots live there.
Yeah. So Michael, yes or no? What are your are you getting?
I'm a hell no on this. I don't understand any part of this. There's every red flag in history about this. From the website of the franchisor to how much they're asking to the type of business that it is to the way it's written. I haven't seen one green flag on this other than it's written in English. That's the only green flag on this deal. So I have hated deals before. I have never hated a deal as much as I hate this deal. I hate this deal with the passion of the fry cooks at 1 million Chick-fil-A's. That's how much I hate this deal.
That's an odd analogy, but okay.
That's a good franchise.
That is a good franchise. Well, is that a franchise? You can only have one. I guess it is a franchise. You just only get one.
It's a bizarre setup. Yeah, Connor, you may want to talk about how Chick-fil-A is set up uniquely.
It is not a franchise by definition of the law. They have an incentive structure set up for their operators where they're paid out part of the cash flow that the store generates without having to put up a lot of the money. So, but ultimately they're highly paid managers.
So they're not under legally a franchise system. I thought they were. Just it was bizarre that they had restrictions and they didn't have to put up much cash. But they're not legally a franchise?
No, because Chick-fil-A corporate owns everything. So they own the land, they own the business, they own the operating entity, and then basically the operating entities pay a royalty or a management fee, I think is what they call it, your traditional percentage of sales to Chick-fil-A corporate. And then they back out, the rent for, I believe, the building and the equipment. And then out of whatever's left, that's what they're assuming is like the operating profit of that location. That's what they split 50-50 between 50% going to Chick-fil-A corporate and 50% going to the operator. So the operators, which are basically what they would call their quote unquote franchisees, they still end up making good money. They make several $100,000 a year, but it's not ownership. They don't own the business. It's not they can't sell the business. They're not building value.
Got it. Okay.
But,
all right. So there, I'm a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Phil?
You don't say.
Other than all of that, I love this deal. Anyway, over to you.
I'm a thumbs down. I mean, this shows you, I think this is great, Connor. I'm glad you brought it because it kind of showcases a lot of kind of what can be the predatory side of franchise sales.
Completely. And by the way, I'm obviously a thumbs down. I don't like the business, but I would be interested in executive security. I think somebody should start an executive security franchise. That would be interesting. I have never heard of this franchise before, for what it's worth. Usually I have heard of franchises and have a strong opinion one way or another, but that was kind of the first red flag to me from the start, is that I had not heard of them. So anyway, thumbs down from me as well.
Why'd you start the executive security franchise war?
To your earlier point, that's not really, when you see a 5'6", like 140-pound dude, I don't know that I really fit the profile of this dude.
That's where you need a partner.
Are you offering?
I know nothing about security. I don't own any guns. Well, no, I'm sorry. If anybody's listening to this, I own a lot of guns. They're everywhere. They're all loaded.
Do you keep them in the elevator? Going back to
we have a gun-evator.
Your gun rack that goes
no,
up
you can
based
totally,
on which floor?
No, the key thing, you got to go find somebody who's a specialist in this and do a 1 + 1 = 3. Like, I think the scenario to incubate a franchise system like that is you bring the franchise expertise, the marketing knowledge, how to make the system work in the business building, and then you go find somebody who's worked in private security, ideally as a middle manager or a leader, and they understand the business. And you guys, you put together each things that the other one is missing. So then you can sell some franchises.
If anybody out there is a former Secret Service agent and really wants to start a franchise, reach out.
I know a guy who's been a rent-a-cop. I'll have him call you.
Sounds good.
His name's Paul Blart. Cool. Okay. We're all thumbs down?
Yes.
Thumbs down.
All right. I'll speak for Heather. She hates this too. So does Mills.
Good.
And every other guest we've ever had. They all hate it.
Thumbs down. Womp womp.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Connor, great job again today. These were 2 good deals. So A+ from you, Connor, bringing deals and insights. So well done. And if you would help us grow the podcast, tell a friend about this episode if you found it at least hilarious, or if you found it stupid. Then also tell a friend about it and tell them not to listen to this episode and listen to some of the other ones. But we would love to keep growing the podcast. And the best way to do that is through word of mouth. So please tell a friend, and we'll catch you next time.